we did up to verse number 3 of Dṛg-Dṛśya-Viveka. So we will do the next verse, number 4. So this is Anushtupa Chanda, right? All of you are aware what that is. So we'll chant. Kama Sankalpa Sandeho
Kama Sankalpa Sandeho
Shraddha Shraddhai Dhritittare
Shraddha Shraddhe Dhritittare
Dhrir Dhir Vir Ityevamādin Bhasayat Yekadha Chitihi. So I'll just mute you all. Okay. Now, in the previous verses, we had 3 pairs. What were they? Do you remember? What are the 3 pairs which we discussed? Anybody?
Yes, the first part is world eyes, being the world the object and eyes the subject. The second pair was the eyes and mind, being object eyes and subject the mind.
Yeah.
And the third one is mind Sakshi, being mind the object and Sakshi the subject.
Yeah. So that is what we are now going to discuss. We have discussed the first 2 in detail. Now he introduces the third one here. So introducing the mind as the object and the Sakshi, the consciousness, as the subject. So he gives a list. He says Kamaha. The first one is Kamaha, desires. Then you break the other one into Sankalpaha, Sandeshaha, Shraddha, Ashraddha, Dhriti, and Itara. Then Hri, Dhi, Bhi. Okay. And Iti Evam Adi. So that will come to. Look at Kamaha, that is desires. Sankalpaha is your plans, the resolutions you make, your hopes for tomorrow, your plans for tomorrow. This is Sankalpaha. And he uses the word Sandeha over here. Sandeha is doubt. And more appropriate word is Vichikitsa, but Vichikitsa will not be used here for one very simple reason. It doesn't fit the meter of the chant. The meter is Anushtupa. And if you used Vichikitsa over here, you will find that Kama Sankalpa Vichikitsa, so it won't fit in. That's why Sandeho. So that is the thing over here. That your Sandeha means doubt. Then next one is Shraddha, faith. Ashraddha, lack of faith. Dhriti, Dhriti is willpower. And Itara, Itara here means other. Other means opposite of Dhriti. So opposite of Dhriti is lack of willpower. So Dhriti, and that is willpower, and Adhriti, lack of willpower. So instead of Adhriti, we are using the word Itra. Then Hri, Hri is modesty. Dhi is of course intelligence or knowledge. Bhi stands for Bhayam, fear. And he says Iti, Evam, Adi, etc. In this manner, Evam, in similar manner, etc. So which meaning similar conditions of the mind. So he's describing different conditions of the mind. And he says all these conditions and similar ones. So he is not excluding any condition. After having given these few changes of the mind, he says, and similar other conditions of the mind. So these are the mind going through different conditions, different states like happiness, sorrow, jealousy, fear, and then those are emotions which are very strong. And then there are cognitive conditions like knowledge, doubt, ignorance. So he's saying here that these are all states of the mind, meaning experiences of the mind. And they are all experienced by whom? He says, Chitihi bhasayati Chitihi is consciousness. Bhasayati illumines. So bhasayati can be taken as because of Chiti only, we are able to understand these different conditions of the mind. Because of consciousness alone, we are able to understand these varying changes in the mind. And the last, he says, ekada. So Chiti ekada. The mind itself remains changeless. So you have a changeless subject and you have a ever-changing object. So this independent consciousness is the third seer. And what is the nature of this seer? That we will see in the next verse. So we have taken three sets of, three pairs. The highest pair, Sakshi, is the seer. Independent consciousness is the seer or the subject. So now let's look at verse number 5. We will chant, I'll unmute you. No deti nastam etyesha.
No deti
Nastam
nastam etyesha.
No deti nastam etyesha.
No
Nastam etyesha.
Na vriddhim yati nakshayam.
Na
Dṛg-Dṛśya
yati
Nashayam.
nakshayam.
It's not shayam. What should be?
Sham.
Kshayam. So when you chant, it's called nakshayam because the akshayam it is. Aksha. Then swayam vibhatayatthānyāni.
Swayam vibhatayatnyani.
Swayam vibhatyatthānyāni.
Swayam vibhatyathānyani.
Bhasayet sadhanam vina.
Asayet sadhanam vina.
Okay, so I am muting you all again. Now, no deti. Any guesses on how that should break up? Somebody is very busy in the kitchen. Any guesses on how no deti will break up? No. Okay. Na udeti. What does udeti mean? Guys?
To rise.
Yes. Surya Uday. Okay. Udeti is to rise. So na udeti does not arise. Na astam eti. What is that?
Does not set.
Does not set. Very simple. Okay. Astam, Suryastam does not set. Na vriddhim. So here vriddhim is not to be taken as growing old. It to be taken as growing in size. Na vriddhim does not increase. Why is that to be taken like that? Because there is the next one is nakshayam. Shayam is to decay. And here decay has to be taken as does not decrease in size. So na vriddhim does not increase. Nakshayam does not decrease. And swayam vibhati shines by itself. Then your atha. Okay, swayam vibhati. Then atha anyani. So that whole word breaks up into swayam vibhati atha anyani bhasayet sadhanam vina. So swayam vibhati means shines by itself. Atha, on the other hand, anyani sadhanam vina, without any other sadhana, bhasayet, illumines. Okay. So here we are talking about the nature of consciousness. subject number 3, which is Sakshi. We are talking about the nature of Sakshi, which we have called earlier Atma, we have called Para Prakriti. Okay. Interestingly, let's see how much the grammar pundits know. Okay. Chiti. Chiti is it masculine, feminine? There are some,
Feminine?
no, make up your mind. Is it masculine or is it feminine?
No, I'm saying feminine.
Sound feminine.
Chiti is feminine. Okay. Interestingly, the same, like in English, you have a word which is, there is only one gender for that word, right? Here, you will find that this consciousness, Chiti, when the word is used, is feminine. When Chaitanyam is used, what is the gender?
Masculine.
Masculine.
No. Chaitanyam is not masculine.
Oh,
It's
neuter.
Chaitanyam is neutral. Okay. And there is another word, avabodha, that is masculine. So here in Sanskrit you will find that one object can be represented by words of all the genders. So you have this concept of consciousness being represented by Chiti, which is feminine, Chaitanyam, which is neutral, and avabodha, which is masculine. And how should one know the gender of a word? What is the rule to know the gender of a word? Because in English, what happens is you know the gender because each word is only one gender. But you are saying one object can be represented by many different words with many different genders. What is the rule?
The word ending with E is usually feminine, and ending with O is usually masculine. There are other alphabets too, I don't remember, sorry.
Well, so in fact, what you are saying is that, it's an arbitrary classification, right? There is no rule which defines how which is feminine, which is masculine. The classification arbitrary, and hence, which is true. There is no rule in grammar. There is no grammatical rule which enables you to figure out what is the gender of a word. The only way is what you look at the dictionary. The dictionary will say this is masculine, this is feminine, and this is neutral. Unfortunately, that part of Sanskrit is very rigid. You don't have any ways of looking at, can I derive the gender from somewhere? Anyway, that was by the way. So, na udeti, na astam eti. It has no beginning. Na udeti. It does not rise. It has no beginning. Whoever is talking in the house, could you please switch off your mic? Okay. Na udeti, it has no beginning. Na astam eti, it has no end. Okay. Now, in the light of what we are talking about, na udeti and na astameti, it has no beginning and no end, refers to what? In this word, which is the word which is being qualified by na udeti, na astameti?
Nityam.
No, in this verse, which is the word? There is a word in this verse which is being qualified by this phrase, na udeti, na astameti.
Swayam Vibhati.
Nakshaya.
No.
Nash.
See, when you are saying something does not arise and something does not set.
No.
No. No, nothing.
No, you're looking at the word Esha. Come on. That is the no deti.
I was about to say it, then I just
Na
kept my mouth
udeti,
shut.
na astameti, Esha. Esha is what? What does Esha mean over here? What is it in reference to? This is advanced Vedanta. You have to use your head.
Consciousness.
Which is where? Where does it appear? Which is the word
This-
which you are Esha is referring to?
Consciousness.
I want
Esha is referring.
I want the word from the verses.
Chitti, the previous verse.
This consciousness.
Okay, it's referring to what?
Consciousness.
Where is the word in? Which is the word in the verse? Previous verse or this verse? Which is the word?
Esha.
Esha is in this verse. Esha means that one. Wo wala. Kaisa wala.
Seer, seer.
Swayam.
Chitihi.
Chitti.
Chittihi.
Consciousness is correct. But where does it appear in what form? It appears as Chitihi in the previous
Chittihi.
verse. Right.
Chittihi.
It appears Chitihi in the previous verse. So this is how you have to connect always, because we are no longer talking about just Bhagavad Gita, right? We are trying to extract meanings from these things. Remember, this author is talking about Chitihi in Tattvabodha terms is what? What was it called in Tattvabodha term?
Chitta.
Meda, Shivani, the two teachers,
Original consciousness.
original consciousness. Okay, talking about OC. Okay. Now, when he says OC does not rise and does not set, what is he saying? OC is
Neither
what
form
guna
nor
of OC is talking about?
eternal.
Eternal.
Permanent.
Eternal, but in Sanskrit,
Sat.
Nityam.
you can't just throw words around. No, you have to actually extract it. Where are you going to get? What does it mean? When you say something has no beginning and something has no end, what does it mean?
Anantaha.
Anantaha.
Ananta is fine. Meaning what? What is, when you want to explain to somebody what Ananta is, what will you say? You will say it is independent of time.
Of space and time.
Finite.
Right now,
Independent
we're talking about independent of time, which is
Kala.
Kala Rahita.
Kalarahita.
Okay,
Right.
so this is the whole purpose of this class, is to enable you to become very familiar with those terms. Kala Rahitaha, independent of Kala. Okay, so it has always existed. There was never a time when it doesn't exist. It exists now, and there will be never a time when it will not exist, and hence Kala Rahitaha. Okay. Now, na vriddhim yati does not increase in size. Na shayam yati does not decrease in size. And therefore, here what is it talking about?
Desharahita.
Desha
Not
Rahita.
limited by space.
So not limited by space. The other one is not limited by time. This one is not limited by space. Remember, the ideas are not new at all. The ideas are already covered in Tattvabodha, already covered in Bhagavad Gita class. Different acharyas using different words to indicate the same thing. And our by now there is a framework in your mind. Within that framework, whatever verses you put, you should be able to extract the information in terms of what you already know. And therefore, here it has to be Kala Rahita, it has to be Desha Rahita. That means there is no Kala Pratibandham, there is no Desha Pratibandham. There is no obstacle in terms of space, there is no obstacle in terms of time. Then, Swayam
Beyond space and time.
Swayam Vibhatayat Anyani. So that you break. Swayam Vibhati Atha Anyani. So Swayam Vibhati also. You have to supply here Sakshi Swayam Vibhati. Okay. And Atha Anyani Bhasayet. Illumines. So Sakshi Swayam Vibhati Atha Anyani Bhasayet. Which means the Sakshi illumines itself, Swayam Vibhati, Atha, also Anyani Bhasayet, illumines others also. So without, and how does it illumine? You have understood this, right? The consciousness, number one, does not need anything else for it to be understood. Consciousness by itself is self-illumining. It's self-illuminating. You don't need anything else to know that you are conscious. Basically, that's what it means. Do you need something else to know you're conscious? No. The very fact that you say I, that means I am conscious. And therefore, Swayam Vibhati. And because of this consciousness, you know everything else also. And then he adds very interestingly, sadhanam vina, without any instrument. So this Sakshi can illumine anything without any instrument. However, the mind can illumine something only with the help of thought. So the instrument of the mind is the thought. The vritti. Vritti literally means function. So the mind, function of the mind is thoughts. And therefore the mind can make you understand or reveal something only when there is a thought. Whereas the Sakshi does not require a thought. It does not require a mind. Till where did you hear, you guys?
Thanks.
Does not require.
The mind and thought.
Yes,
Does-
sir.
doesn't need
Actually,
mind thought.
I can't hear you very well.
hello.
Yeah. So
The mind does not need it.
the mind does not require. The mind requires instrument, while the Sakshi does not require instrument. And that's why Sakshi, he says, Asayet sadhanam vina. Illumines without the need of any other instrument. On the other hand, Sakshi illumines the mind. Okay. So it looks like Sakshi is doing something, right? Because illumining mind means, when you use the word illumine, that's a verb, right? And that verb normally means activity, kriya. It's a kriya pad. That's why it's called a kriya pad. A verb is something which indicates activity. But here we must remember that illumine here is not an action at all. It is not a kriya pad. It's not a verb. It simply means that, like you say, when fire burns, right? Fire doesn't really burn you when you put your hand in it. Your hand gets burned because it is the nature of the fire to burn. You cannot say that fire is doing an action by burning your hand. And similarly here, illumine means it is simply the nature of Sakshi that when something comes in contact with it, it becomes alive and sentient. And therefore he says, Sakshi sadhanam vina. It is not doing an activity at all. The moment the mind comes in contact with consciousness, the mind becomes sentient. It is like the sunlight revealing something which comes in the light. There is no conscious, even though we say sunlight reveals this, really speaking, there is no activity on the part of sunlight. It is just that whatever comes in the sunlight becomes revealed to us. Similarly, whatever comes.
Probably got disconnected. Hello.
Yeah, sorry. I'm say again that just like something is revealed when it comes in the sunlight, in the same manner, when something is, when for example the sun comes up, we say, I can see the mountain. The sun has revealed the mountain. But really speaking, the sun has not done anything. Just the fact that sun comes up means because of the nature of the sun, everything is bathed in light. So sun doesn't really do anything like revealing. There's no activity on the part of the sun. Similarly, when Atma is brought into contact with something, or something comes in contact with Atma, providing it has the relevant quality of subtle body and all that, that something becomes as if live, as if sentient. There is no activity on the part of Atma. That is what he's saying. So those two verses are talking about the nature of the Atma, how it functions. So with this, we'll stop here in case you have any questions.
Sir, witness also is not an action.
What?
If witness, like Sakshi, Sakshi she's witnessing everything.
That is not an action
So
at
is
all.
witnessing not considered as an action?
No, something comes in front of your eyes. Do you have the option of saying, I'm not seeing it? See,
No.
there is no free will, right? If something comes in front of your eyes which are open, you are going to see it, whether you like it or not. You do not have the option of not seeing it, and therefore there is no activity on your part. It is the nature of the eye to reveal to you whatever comes in front of it. We are not talking about closing your eyelids. In an open eye, with an open eye, if something comes in front of you, where is the question of you're not seeing it? And therefore it's not an activity. It is the nature of the eye. That's what is called pramanam. Pramanam doesn't require conscious will. The pramanam by nature will reveal to you what it is supposed to reveal.
Thank you.
Okay. So with this, we'll stop here. There are no questions, so I will assume that all of you are jnanis of the highest order. And that makes me very happy, actually. So, okay. Let us stop. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Shanti.